All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today, before we start the show, I would like to bring up some business things that have kind of been on my mind so that you can know where to get more Where Am I to Go. First off, I'd like to talk about the Facebook page at Where Am I to Go podcast. It's on Facebook, and we've been posting some wonderful pictures of some of the places that we've been and some of the adventures that we've had. Not everything that we go and do is made into a podcast, and so we take pictures at different places and post those pictures so that you guys can enjoy some of the different places we've been. Also, I really am interested in listener feedback. I have an email address at whereamiitogopodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is whereamiitogopodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear some of the listeners' comments and some of their ideas of places that might be interesting to visit and go and do. Today we're in Prescott, Arizona, which is a really cool town. I don't know what the population is, but we managed to find a trading post and bead museum. And Tom was kind enough to, on the spur of the moment, Thomas, excuse me, I was corrected. Thomas was kind enough when I called him on the spur of the moment to say, come on down and we will talk about beads and his store. And walking through the front door, I'm just in awe. I'm not really a bead person, and it's going to show that I don't know much about beads other than I've seen them in a lot of places. But Thomas is going to take us through some history through his store, and I'm really looking forward to this. Welcome, Thomas, to Where Am I to Go?
Beautiful. I'm glad you guys showed up. You're at the right place.
Now, Thomas told me that he has just opened this.
Soft opening this week, yeah.
Okay, which means you just are now opening.
Yeah, we're not even announcing it yet. So
okay.
Grand opening is probably about 2 or 3 weeks away.
Which is going to be the middle of February or so.
Yeah, right. We'll probably get 3 feet of snow right as I do it. That's just par for the course around here.
You get lots of snow in Prescott?
You can get 3 feet at a time.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're not that far from Phoenix. Everybody thinks Arizona, right. Sun and fun.
Hour and a half, comfortable ride, yeah.
Wow. And there looks like there's a ton of things to do. We stayed at a campground just on our way in, right at the edge of town. Beautiful little campground and nobody there at this time of year. But it looks like you guys have tons of mountain around and recreation and all kinds of things.
Prescott's unbelievable. We have lakes, streams, hiking, fishing, camping. It hosts the world's oldest rodeo.
Really?
That's number one claim to fame. It has a place downtown called Whiskey Row.
Tell me about Whiskey Row, as long as we're here.
Whiskey Row has bars such as Matt's Saloon that have been around since the 1800s.
Okay.
Still operating under the same roof kind of a thing. There was a huge fire down there like 1890s or something like that. And after that it was rebuilt and still, it's the oldest rodeo. It's the oldest whiskey bars. It's got a beautiful downtown square. Prescott's grown by leaps and bounds over the last 20, 30 years because it's a retirement place. So,
but you still get all 4 seasons here.
4 seasons, beautiful, yeah. It's a mile high, so if you have breathing problems, you might want to remember that one. But I basically grew up in the Phoenix area, and I said if I ever retire, it'll be in Prescott, and I'm here now. So,
well, doesn't look to me like you're retired. You got too much inventory to retire.
It's my retirement. It's my hobby.
What you enjoy doing.
Yeah. Instead of a showcase where nobody sees it, it's out in the open. You can see it and buy it. So.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's come on into your store here. You have beads on the wall. You have beads in cases. You have rocks. You've got all kinds of really cool stuff. And I asked him on the phone. I said, now, this is a museum, right? And he said, yes, this is a museum, but if somebody sees something that they can't live without, they can buy my museum pieces too.
Well, actually, the way I put it is if they like it more than me and they have the money.
There you go.
They can actually buy something. No, they can buy almost any bead in here. I'm glued on a few, but but they can buy almost any bead in here. And I do have probably 3,000 strands plus hanging within grasp, meaning you can walk right up to them and they're not in a pile behind something. You can walk right up to them and touch them and look at them, examine them and fondle them and put them around your neck. So it's the only bead store that has that.
Well, that's cool. And you were showing us that you've been highlighted as a collector in some different magazines. And...
Yeah, Ornament Magazine has me in the current issue as one of the places to go in the country. Prescott Trading Post and Bead Museum, right across the page from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So I'm
wow,
pretty honored to be on the same. Ornament Magazine is probably the premier magazine for these kind of things. It started out as the Bead Journal and then morphed into the Ornament Magazine. So international. So I've been in the local papers, Coming Soon and that kind of stuff. Chamber of Commerce has plugged me a few times. So the Western Heritage Museum now is plugging me. So I'm pretty fortunate to have people that support me right out of the chute. So it's pretty cool. I was a collector for the majority of my life. In the last 10 years, I started selling a little bit. Typically, I would set up at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show.
Okay.
Which is the largest in the world. And
we're headed that direction at some point in time here shortly.
Very, very cool. It's really scaled back this year because of COVID and lack of international travel. So, I've been doing this since the early 70s.
Really?
So my bead knowledge goes way. I thought I was a freak up until about probably the mid 80s when I realized there's actually books on it and other people doing it. So, I always thought I was one of the only people in the world that did this kind of stuff. So.
Well, that's way cool, and then to be able to turn it into a business, and
it's been pretty good for me. Yeah.
Well, good. Okay, so you started collecting beads in the early 70s. Were these specialty beads? Were these any types of beads? I mean, I'm looking around. I don't see the cheap plastic beads.
No, you're not going to.
Or anything. This looks like all high class collector beads.
I'm not really a store for beaders, but I do have things for people that do beading, which is just stringing them up for pretty. I have more collectible beads where people hunt and search and stuff for years trying to find a certain type of bead. I started cutting gemstones in the early 70s. So Tucson was my go-to place for picking up gem rough. I was in an Afghanistan dealer's booth, and he had beautiful gem material that needed to be cut. And he also had some beads sitting to the side, and these beads were what are known as seal beads. They have engravings in them where you would roll them on a clay tablet and it would leave a three-dimensional impression.
Oh, really?
Of something really cool. And the first one I picked up had some gazelles eating grapes from some guy's vineyard.
Really?
And I find out they were made like 3,000 years ago, and I was just hooked. I was blown away. I said, okay, here's a gemstone turned into a bead that has a story on it that was made 3,000 years ago. And for me, that was just, I was a gem cutter at the time. I said, this is like my forefather. I don't care if you're Afghanistan, whatever.
Right. But Afghanistan was a cool place at the time. In the 70s, I had a friend that's dad was a doctor in Afghanistan.
There you go.
And he talked about how fun it was and how free it was.
It's still a cool place if you get the politics and the jerks out.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
But lots of history there. Alexander the Great was there. So anyway, this was probably precursor to an Alexander the Great type of a thing. So
wow,
I got hooked on beads very early, and because of the historical part of the bead.
Right.
And I have a quest for knowledge that just won't quit, and it's made me broke a few times because of the things like that. So
let's not talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. So my whole thing was to find out everything there was about early bead making. We have now established that early bead making goes back to 100,000 BC.
And is that ornamental, or is that...
That's beads that you would wear around your neck. Let's probably start at the beginning of beads, okay?
Because I'm totally ignorant when it comes to beads. I need some bead knowledge here.
Okay. you would recognize a bead instantly, right? I mean, even
Well,
though
yeah.
you've never collected one, you know exactly what a bead is.
Yeah, it's a rock with a hole in it that you can put on a string.
There you go. Perforate a little piece of something. You put it on a string. You can wear it. Okay. It's portable wealth. It's some of the earliest forms of money, wealth, trade goods.
Right.
Earliest forms of adornment. It can be made out of virtually anything. They have found beads made out of people's teeth and finger bones and animal claws and gold nuggets and feathers. I mean, you can make a bead almost out of anything. So it's very versatile. It doesn't take a lot to make a bead. Every single culture knows what a bead is and uses beads. Every single religion has beads in their, you know, you've got the rosary beads, the Buddhist prayer malas, I mean, beads are, the Muslims have prayer beads. Every religion uses them. It's a universal form of adornment. Everybody knows it. So it's like, okay, why not collect something that everybody can identify with primordially or you know, just subconsciously. And I got off on that. I mean, for me, that was really cool. And then to find out what is really rare and you know, like there are turquoise beads that are just mind-bogglingly beautiful. They come out of Tibet from the old Chinese turquoise mines when they were still doing nice trade there.
Wow.
There are stone beads that are quote unquote etched. They're surface decorated, but for lack of a better term, they're etched, where they use an alkaline to stain this bead with alkalins, and then it'll etch a design into this agate bead.
Kind of like etching glass.
Yeah, and guess what they sell for?
Tell me what they sell for.
Record prices for a Z bead in a Chinese market is $4 million for a single bead.
What?
Yes.
Do you have one?
Not a $4 million one. I'm wearing one that's. Let's not go as to how much it's not $1 million.
Are they still doing that process then?
Well, they're doing it now more than ever because the Chinese copy everything and they do a darn good job at copying. Mm-hmm. And so if there's money there, they're going to copy it.
Okay.
I've got a whole tray of copies down here. You know, people and they start at $5-10.
And when were the Chinese beads made that you were just talking about?
Well, these weren't Chinese. These were. I don't think China was even around at that time.
Oh,
China
really?
goes way far back. So
right.
I think we can date them back 2,000-3,000 years.
Wow.
So.
And they were using an etching process.
Well, it's called surface decorating using alkalins and stuff like that. Etching would eat into it, but it actually just changes the color, and so it doesn't eat into it.
Okay.
So etching is kind of a loose term that we use, but it's not scientifically accurate. I'm going to use it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, because it's easier.
That's what people understand.
Easier to understand. Yeah, exactly. Easier to understand.
Wow, I had no idea. I mean, I'd never even thought about the concept of a bead being a gemstone or whatever with a hole for adornment. I mean, this whole 100,000 year history of beads is just my mind's kind of going. Bzzz.
Doesn't it boggle it?
Yeah.
This timeline right here that you see up here.
Okay. He's got a big timeline up here on his wall.
It covers about 18 feet of wall space.
Yeah, and it's about 3.5 feet high.
It's from the original bead museum in Glendale, Arizona.
Okay.
Which moved to Glendale from Prescott, Arizona.
Okay.
Which was the first bead museum in the country. And 2 weeks ago, I found the original sign for the Prescott Museum.
Oh, really?
And now it's hanging in the window here.
Where'd you find that?
The original daughter of the owner found it in her garage.
Really?
And I had talked to her a long time ago. If you find posters, whatever, just let me know, and I'll be there to pick them up, buy them, whatever, trade for them.
Wow.
So, getting back to this timeline here, this one only goes back to 30,000 BC.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. Well, we've recently moved it all the way back to 100,000.
Wow.
Seashells found in Turkey that had been pecked and worn in an assemblage. So we can accurately say that these were used. They were interred in a grave. So the dating process was really good on this. And it shows you Europe, Western Asia, Mediterranean, Egypt, India, Far East, Southeast Asia, North America, Middle and South America, Africa. And then as some of these other places were included into there as well, you know, it'll show it. It shows kind of the progression of the more common bead types.
Right.
And some of these are very collectible, very valuable.
Wow.
So
that's quite the chart that you have up there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that you can just about tell time frames and
Yes.
countries and all
Yes.
that by the shapes of the beads, the styles of the beads.
Absolutely.
Because everything's different, completely different.
a good bead guy that has done his research by looking at a bead can tell typically the culture it came from, which then designates the area of the world. And you know, we say Europe, but some of these beads, there was no Europe.
Right.
It's that continent was there, but there was no Europe. Period. There was just the Celts or something
Right.
else. You know, some people call them the Celts. I call them the Celts.
Wow.
And then cultures traded with one another. For instance, when the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Brits, all the guys that, you know, Britannia rules the waves, all the guys that had the big old galleons that went out there conquering worlds and island nations and continents, you know, they went down into Africa, and you've heard of the African beat or African trade.
Right, right.
Well, these ships needed ballast because these ships had huge hulls.
Okay.
That if you didn't put a ballast in, they'd pop up out of the water and flip over on their side.
Right.
So they'd fill them with fresh water, barrels of fresh water, because you didn't get, you know, ocean
Right.
water. With food, with cattle, with all kinds of stuff to sustain their journeys. But they also had barrels and barrels and barrels of beads.
Okay.
And bead making centers popped up you've heard of the island of Murano, Italy. You probably heard
Right.
of Murano, Venetian beads, that kind of stuff. Venetian beads are found everywhere in the world because they went and they sold them to the Spanish and to the French and whoever was out there trying to conquer places. And these guys they'd go down there and these guys had the glass formulas and all that stuff inside their heads. And these were closed little groups that wouldn't share their info, and they made beads just for this kind of stuff. So we have beads, like for instance, the Picard Bead Museum in Carmel, California has a beautiful display of the Venetian stuff. He's the Venetian guy of the world. He's published a few books. And he shows in his charts and stuff, beads that were traded, for instance, in South Africa, the Gold Coast, Ghana, Ivory Coast, and those areas. And beads that were strictly traded for gold, for ivory, for palm oil, and slaves.
Really?
So beads have bought a lot of things over the years, and they've been important in all the New World discoveries and all.
I mean, Lewis and Clark, the Indian bead trade
We have
was
beads called
phenomenal.
Lewis and Clark beads and French ambassador beads. Even though they weren't the beads used there, it's a rendezvous term or a campfire term, and you know they still
Czech beads.
Czechoslovakia. Yeah, they were doing pressed beads. The Venetians were doing flame wound and furnace wound and pulled beads. Yeah, they're way cooler than the pressed, but the Czechs produced some gorgeous beads for that same thing. You know, the Bohemians. There wasn't even Czechoslovakia at that time. They were just Bohemians.
This whole thing's blowing my mind. This is I always thought beads were something that you bought for your 10-year-old kid to put on a bead loom and make a bracelet.
I have beads and I have strands of beads in here that I wouldn't take. That I would say no, $15,000-$20,000. I'd say no, sorry, keep your money.
Wow.
For a single strand. I have individual beads that go up to $45,000-$50,000.
Wow.
So
out here on display?
No, they're.
Oh, I was going to say.
Well, I'm not going to say where they are, but they're in the lock and key, and the steel door's about like this.
Okay,
I do special displays though.
Right.
But if somebody wanted to purchase that,
they will come in. I will take them to where they are, and we will sit down, discuss price, and haggle. And beads you haggle over. You don't. I can put a price of whatever on it. Then that's never the price that gets paid typically in a good bead. You go back and forth, and usually he's going to bring something to sweeten the pot by bringing me something I like in the bead world, but not quite as pricey as the bead he's trying to get from me. So I have a collection of I have a collection of Ghana gold beads.
Gold?
Gold beads that are made from the gold that they find. You know, Ghana is it's called the Gold Coast for a reason.
Right,
They're bringing metric tons of gold out of there. So these guys in the back countries years ago were taking the gold and making beautiful beads out of it, and bracelets and the king's regalias were like unbelievable. I was going to say unbelievable. Mm-hmm. What the kings would wear in gold, or their brides. I've got a gorgeous. I have one of the best outside of Ghana collections of that, but it's not on display. It'll be on temporary display occasionally.
Huh.
So
Just put it away every day.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's
Put it away every day.
plus it attracts the wrong element. So you got to be careful.
Right.
Luckily, beads are not that well known by the riffraff, so it's not something I have to worry about unless riffraff is listening to this thing.
I was going to say, I had no clue. I could have looked at beads all day long and thought that they were all 50-cent items.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me show you something here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at a display case with all kinds of
Goodies in it.
goodies in it. Yes.
Okay. For instance, this display case is 99% Mauritania. Mauritania is in the Western Sahara, just below Morocco. It hits the Atlantic coast and goes into the Sahara Desert. Mauritania is a huge desert place. It had lush oases up until the 70s when the huge droughts came and wiped out everything. And the culture that was the Mauritanians that were the nomads, they all went to Nouakchott, which is a coastal city. They were assimilated and disappeared. So most of this stuff you'll never find again. This is from a culture that is now totally gone.
Wow.
I have beads here that these are made by women by crushing up glass into a fine powder, chewing on gum of Arabic, which is a tree sap that comes off of an acacia tree.
Okay.
Mixing it with the powder and then painting it meticulously onto a cord that they built out of another piece of glass, and then melted it and fused it together on a pottery shard in a campfire under a sardine can. Nobody can recreate these correctly. It's a lost art.
Just the process of what you just said sounds like nobody would be able to figure out the process.
Oh, we've tried. We've tried many, many times and failed every single time.
And these have African design on them. This bead that we're looking at is about, what, maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch long?
Exactly.
In kind of a, not really a teardrop shape, but
we call it triangle.
A triangle type shape.
Elongated triangle.
You have to come see it.
The intricacies of the painting is just phenomenal. But that is paint that we're looking at. It's not...
No, it's crushed glass.
Crushed glass.
Painted on and then fused, and it's hardened into... It's
almost kind of like a pottery glaze.
Yeah, but it's all glass.
But it's all glass.
100% glass.
That is so cool.
And the glass is melted and fused together under a sardine can. I tried doing some kiln glass work, and glass of different temperatures do not cool the same.
They do not.
And crack and break.
They do. Yeah, you've got it.
Wow.
Yeah, so these ladies, and this is a woman's. This was a woman's world. The men didn't do this. The men did this kind of stuff. The men did metal work and stone work and things. The women did all the glass work.
That is just unbelievable. The intricacies of the designs are phenomenal.
Yeah, the designs
and if you've seen
shapes.
like African pottery and stuff, that's what the design would be very similar.
And these are even more colorful than most African.
Oh yeah,
pottery,
yeah. But I'm just saying the design, shapes and some of that. This is unbelievable.
Here's a painting I had commissioned that kind of shows.
Okay.
It shows her wearing the beads in her regalia. Typically, you would never see a woman like this wearing all her beads, because they keep it all undercover. This is their family wealth. This is what their status and everything, and it's something that's not like worn in public over there. Okay. You see this little guy sitting there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
he's got a little tin pot or tea kettle.
Yeah, a little teapot
that's sitting in here that he was saying was a man's crafts. Yeah. But how long did it take him to make one of these little tiny beads?
Well, it's never been observed from this particular tribe, and this particular tribe was probably the best of the best. It was observed in an area called Willata, where they did really basic stuff like this is a Willata bead right here. It doesn't really compare. Yeah,
Not even close.
It's little,
So
very small.
and one of these would probably take a couple of hours. I'm guessing that one of the really complex triangles may have taken 2 or 3 days for a single bead.
Just unbelievable.
In the open market right now, a bead like this, I wouldn't sell it for less than $700.
Do they still know how to do it? Or
They're
is it
they're
lost?
gone.
They're gone.
They're all gone.
They got assimilated into the cities, and they're
And
gone.
nobody knows how to do this anymore.
They've tried. They even started a co-op of the women that they could find, and they started putting them together to do that. And the product is totally inferior, and it was made for sale. These were made for self-adornment. These were not ever intended to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did they use them as trade items, or they were just personal?
possibly. What they did is they were finding, it's called Islamic beads. These are beads made from the Islamic nations out of glass, post-Roman period.
Okay.
Gorgeous beads. These are Islamic beads right here.
Okay.
And these are made out of glass. They date back maybe 1,000 years or more. And so they would find these in these different trade routes, oases. You know, this Sahara Desert, you can fit 1.5 United States into the Sahara Desert. It's a huge area.
Okay.
And they had trade routes, camel and oases and things like that. So they would find one of these, and then they would try and interpret it in their own way, in fashion. Like this strand right here has beads that would match some of these beads right here. So
Okay, so the shapes and stuff they would try to copy, and then they
exactly.
would put their own intricate designs on.
Well, they would try to use the same designs because to them that was money, or that was personal wealth. But the triangular shapes are their own design. We haven't really found anything substantial that would say that they copied the triangle. So all the rounds and some of the other shapes they copied from the design only, not the manufacturing technique. These are made by lamp winding on over a fire. Totally different way of making it.
Okay, those are the.
This is still the modern way of making it.
Okay.
This is not. This is lost.
Wow.
And then they would take amber. Okay, amber is a universally loved substance. For one thing, it's easy to wear. It's light. You can wear big pieces.
And that's a tree sap that's petrified or
Very
crystallized
close,
or fossilized.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
right.
It just aged and it's hardened, and you can wear it now. And they would make these beads out of amber. Okay, they'd add their own embellishments. These all have little metal. If you look
Inlays,
real close,
yeah.
they have little metal caps, and they'd add their own silver beads to them and things. So
These amber beads are absolutely beautiful. Some of them are pretty good sized. You've got some that are probably 1.5 inch in diameter.
They're gorgeous.
look back here,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you've got some that are like 2 inches in diameter.
or bigger.
And then 1.5 inches thick. Wow, those
Yeah.
things are huge.
Yeah, and they're highly prized in Tibet, in Africa, in quite a few areas. In Tibet, they'll wear them on their heads, and it's phenomenal how they wear them in Tibet.
Wow.
So this is just one small area of the world, and I only have one tiny example of the kind of beads that you would find. These are handmade gold beads right here. These are solid gold, but they hollowed them. I'm going to show you first. And you can see how intricate they are.
And that's gold.
That's solid gold, yeah.
And it's hollow on the inside.
Yeah, they made them.
He's
hollow.
holding a bead that's probably 1/2 inch long, another one that's probably 1/4 inch round, and it has little itty bitty, I don't even know how small that would be, super small little beads all over it, and design. It is just intricate as all get out.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And
they're
it's
crazy.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
Wow.
and then they would hand make stone beads.
Okay. Now back to the gold ones. All those
Yeah.
little beads and stuff that are on the outside, did they have to put those on
by hand,
by weld, or did they
by
glue?
hand. Yeah, what they do is they have a glue also, and then it's probably the same glue they use the acacia with the mixing it with your saliva.
Okay.
Makes a really good glue for that. You coat the bead itself, and then you apply those tiny little things, and they'll stick to it, and then when you heat it, they fuse to it.
Okay, so that's a heated
also,
process too.
Yeah, but it's also, this process wasn't rediscovered until the 1980s in the Western world. It's an old process that goes back to the Roman days.
Wow.
But the Mauritanians were doing it before the Americans analyzed, figured out, and reinvented it.
So was everybody cross-eyed?
Yeah. They were all blind at age 16. Yeah, exactly.
mean, really, you're talking about such intricate placement of all of those little tiny beads on top of the bigger one.
Yeah.
And they're all so evenly spaced.
It's crazy, I know. It's crazy. The time involved. Oh. Now, you have to remember, these are nomadic tribes that are traveling through the desert, and their number one thing is survival. Find water, find shelter, make sure my animals aren't being killed by lions and whatever else is out there.
And you're going to bed at dark, and you're getting up at light. So you've got a very limited, in the winter, you've got a very limited time to be able to be doing those things.
And no grocery stores or Home Depots or 7-Elevens.
And then,
everything is made by hand. Everything is made by yourself. So to find the time, to find the spare time to make something, because this takes time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and time is a huge commodity. So for them, the wealth is the time invested and the material and the end product. We never look at the time invested because we go into a store and buy it. There's no time invested.
And we throw our clothes in the laundry machine, and we buy them at the, you know, I mean, we live in a pretty gravy world.
I mean,
and then you've got some really cool arrowheads.
Look at the work that goes into that.
Yes. He's got an arrowhead here that's really got two tangs coming down besides the main shaft. Just a beautiful, beautiful arrowhead.
And a really sharp little nipple at the very tip.
Oh, yeah. And a couple of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this stone beads, you know, this is a crystal bead with an offset hole. You know, also the skill that it takes to do this kind of stuff, you know.
What were they using for drill bits coming through these? They were using the stone
They were
arrowhead.
using a stone that was as hard or harder. And they would also make a slurry with, for instance, this is quartz. This material is quartz. Okay, dust and sand is typically quartz. It's a hardness of 7, same as this bead right here.
Okay.
You can use a like hardness to drill the like hardness. So you could use
just
real
the
fine
friction.
sand with the lubricant, and then the friction will drill a hole. Again, it's a time-consuming process.
And you got to find the right sand that's sitting at a 7 hardness, because if you're at a 5, all you're doing is depleting your sand.
Unless you're in a feldspar field, there's not much sand that's less than a hardness of 7. I would say most sand that starts at 7 and can actually go up.
Okay.
But yeah, so
wow.
And then some of the metalsmithing stuff that they do. I mean, it's also very, very cool. Like these beads here, you know.
And where were they getting the metal from?
Trade.
Okay.
Yeah, trade routes.
So they were getting like tin cups, or they were just getting flat metal pieces?
Well, these are all silver, so they were getting silver from somewhere.
Okay.
And then they probably hammered a heck out of it and anneal it and hammer it and make it real thin sheets, and then they'd form it into their...
Silver's a soft metal anyway.
Yeah, there's books on the subject on this stuff here, not so much on this, but on this stuff here.
Okay.
I've got some good books on that. There's a guy named Mani, a guy named Gabus. These are older books. They also used available stuff. So a lot of these prayer strands here, the beads are made out of wood.
Okay.
A hardwood that they'd find in the desert, real dense hardwood. They'd inlay it with silver. Again, time consuming.
Right.
You know, not a lot of value as far as the silver value in it. But now that they've turned it into this, it's got a huge value because it's a really, really cool strand of prayer beads.
Yeah.
And the time invested in it has increased the value of it. Okay. So this is just one tiny little culture and I can talk about this for days. Okay.
You told me I was going to be doing all the talking when I came in, but and I'm glad I'm not, because it would be a very boring podcast if I was the one having to talk about this. This is just
Okay, so
this history is just blowing my mind.
so here's the next case.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Now, to give you an idea, this particular section here is in Indian Artifact Magazine from 2007. It's the actual cover of it.
Okay. And what kind of Indians are we talking about? North American?
North
or-
American, yeah.
Okay.
From Canada down to Florida, basically. And some of this stuff goes all the way down into Peru.
Okay.
Okay. So most of the beads that you see in here are 1400s, 1500s, and 1600s.
And they look like a lot of glass.
They're all glass.
They're all glass.
Every single one of these. There's a few shells mixed in between these, but the 99.9% of everything in here is glass.
Wow.
And I could go into great lengths on explaining every single bead in here.
Now, did the Native Americans make these glass beads, or were these trade beads?
These are trade beads. These all
Okay.
came from Venetian sources, not Czech yet at this point in time. Some German, believe it or not, and then Dutch.
Wow.
So Italian, German, and Dutch is what's in here.
Did they come like this, or were they long pieces and they broke?
Very, very good question. Okay, yes, these right here are made in what's called a cane. Okay, and the canes the canes stretched out an entire room, and then they'd snap them down into like 12-inch sections, 14-inch sections.
And we're looking at beads here that are about 1 inch round, and they taper on down to ½ inch round.
They're called Chevron beads.
Chevron beads,
It's a common
okay.
name. The Rosetta is the design. It's a Rosetta design.
And that was already in the glass in the long
Well,
tubes.
what they did, okay, to give you a real quick rundown on how they make them, they take an optical mold that has a zigzag in it.
Okay.
They take a blob of glass, they pop a hole in it by blowing, and it's one color. That's the inside layer, and they stick it into this mold, and they pull it out, and it has 12 zigzags on it.
Okay.
Now they stick it in a pot that has a different color, and they pull it out, and then they stick that again into a bigger mold, and they repeat that process. It happens to be that all of these are called 7 layers, so they repeat that process 7 times.
Okay.
That's the most famous chevron bead in the world, is a 7-layer. It's been to Africa. It's been everywhere.
Okay.
These beads were traded everywhere. People loved them.
And where were they originally made?
Murano, Italy.
Okay.
Yeah, or Venice. Venice, actually. What happened in Venice, the factory started burning the towns down, so they said, no, you guys are going to the island of Murano, so if you do have fires, you're going to contain it because you're surrounded by water. It's not going to burn down a church and the school and you know,
Okay.
the bars or whatever. So
And then when they broke these, they had to have come off sharp.
They would
And
grind them
They
then.
break.
Then they would grind them, and again
Yes,
they would
yeah.
grind them on rock.
No, they already had grinding wheels in the 1400s.
Okay, so these they weren't made round by the Native Americans. They were traded as
Exactly.
round
the Native
beads already.
Americans typically, the Mauritanians, they reshaped everything they got from the Europeans.
Okay.
They turned it into something for themselves. Native Americans typically left it alone.
Okay, so they already came
what
this
you
way.
see, what you see is what you get, and is how it came to the Native Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's got some small beads here that are probably 1/4 inch round and 6 inches long. I'm referring to these long ones that you have here.
They're called Nueva Cadiz.
Nueva Cadiz.
Yeah, Cadiz was a place in Spain. For some reason, there was a place in South America called Nueva Cadiz, maybe
Okay.
New Spain or New Cadiz. Most of these ended up in Panama, and then from Panama went to Ecuador, to Peru, all over the place.
Okay.
There's some really good stories on this stuff here too. Nombre de Dios was a port city in Panama, and I forget the name of the pirate that was working for the Brits at the time, for the crown, that wanted to destroy the Spanish Armada so they could steal all their goodies.
Okay. I don't know the name of him either. Blackbeard's going to be the one that comes to my mind.
No, it's easy to look.
I don't
up.
know my pirate history.
Yeah.
I don't know my geography the way you do either. I mean, You're sitting here pinpointing all these beads, so you're a geography expert as well.
Well, no, it comes with the territory.
Exactly. You got to know where it comes from.
So these Nueva Cadiz beads were imported into Nombre de Dios in Panama and then dispersed from there
Okay.
to the different Central American, Mesoamerican areas. Very popular trade bead. Comes in multiple different shapes and sizes and colors. And so anyway, this pirate decided to attack the port city, burned it to the ground basically, and we could date some of the beads to at least a certain time period, because when he burned it to the ground, the warehouses that were there that were housing this stuff here showed the melted beads, like they're still stacked in layers. So we know that these beads were there at least at that time period. So that's one way of dating them.
Okay.
Just a quick little history thing.
That's
So.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then so this in this case came out of the original bead museum again in Glendale, Arizona. I happened to snag it. So
Okay, and it's got 2 more drawers that we haven't looked at yet.
It's like looking into a.
Oh, wow.
Look at that! Oh my gosh!
He's
it's
got a
gorgeous.
arrowhead display here with some really cool looking arrowheads.
yeah, that doesn't belong in this
Oh.
drawer, but I'm going to.
They're still cool.
Oh yeah, they're
Even if
awesome.
they're in the wrong
There's
drawer.
some Folsom and Clovis in there. Wow. So this is now Tibet.
Tibet.
Man.
Tibet is Himalayan
Right.
mountains next to Nepal, next to Bhutan, north of Pakistan, Afghanistan,
Kind of near the
India.
bottom of Mount Everest, right?
Yeah,
or am I
up-
wrong?
Up Mount Everest. Actually.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
In that whole
Is that
region.
One of those
sorry.
etched ones.
This is a modern replica of one of those etched ones. It's an ugly one. It's like a paperweight type of a thing.
The one that she's referring to is about 4 inches long and about 3/4 of an inch round,
Yeah, way
or
too-
maybe 1 inch round.
These right here are original types, and these right here are original types.
Okay. So
Okay,
they look a little
and they're
different.
small. They're 2
Wearable.
inches long. You're right, exactly.
They're wearable size. They love their turquoise. Okay, you see, look at the
Right.
spider web.
Oh,
in that
that's
turquoise.
really cool.
Beautiful.
And this hangs off the ear right here. This hangs off the ear with
Are you serious?
yeah.
How much do those things weigh? They got to weigh.
They're heavy.
We're looking at a turquoise pendant that hangs off your ear.
It hangs over your ear like your glasses.
Okay.
Oh,
that's
over
what
your
I'm
ear. Okay.
Yeah, over your
I
ear.
thought it was like a pierced ear, but the
Yeah.
danglies coming off of that are
Heavy.
8 to 10 inches long and silver. And then
Yeah,
it's got
yeah.
heavy turquoise. It's got 3 heavy turquoise
Heavy silver
pendants.
work and heavy turquoise work. Yeah.
Wow.
This is a shaman's necklace right here. It has all kinds of little
Everything.
doodads hanging on it. Prayer strands. This is a very rare stone. This is actually coral is another thing that's super highly prized in all the cultures. And red Mediterranean coral right now is almost eliminated from nature. You can't get it anymore. The places where you can get it are guarded by submarines. I mean, they'll kill you.
Okay.
So good old-fashioned coral was prized by all cultures, including the Tibetans. It's one of their top main worship stones. But they had found this stone here, which is a jasper type of an agate, and it's called Pemaraka. And
Okay.
it looks similar to the coral.
Very similar.
Yeah. And so they made their own. Some people call it Tibetan coral, but it's Pemaraka. It's actually a stone. It's also super duper rare nowadays because anything that's popular, they mine the hell out of it. And it's
Right.
gone, you know. So these are beads that are also surface decorated, related to these in a way, but these are fossilized palm wood,
Okay.
and they're called Pumtec.
And they look kind of like the etched beads.
Yes, very similar. And they
Right.
do a lot of silver work and coral and inlaid bone. These are supposed to be human skulls inlaid with coral and turquoise. They're too
Oh,
fair.
really?
Yeah, they're not, but they're probably yak bone. But you know,
Well, they're-
generally speaking, they should be quote unquote human bone.
And it's pretty.
Yeah, they're very cool.
extremely pretty. It's
Yeah.
got a lot of color, reds and blues and greens, kind of some beiges
Well,
in there.
the red is coral, the blue is turquoise,
Okay.
and then the rest is bone.
Okay.
And probably the darker thing is the glue, the sap, tree sap, or whatever that's keeping it in there.
Okay.
It's inlaid into the bone.
Then it looks like you've got a big tooth or something over on.
Yeah, these are shaman necklaces. So this is probably like a cow's tooth. You've got different claws, like a tiger claw, and fangs, and all kinds of, like I said, little doodads.
And then they're
hanging out.
covered in silver for hanging them off of your necklace or whatever to make them a bead.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That's nice.
So the bottom one is just a repeat of what's in here, basically.
Okay.
It's mostly single beads,
Wow.
but it shows you there's quite a few in this collection.
Yeah.
I think I have the world's
There's
largest
probably what,
supply
200 or
of them.
300 in this
Yeah,
one
I have a
case.
total of 6,000. So if somebody ever wants to see the world's largest collection of Kifa beads,
They're right.
they need to come here.
Wow. This is so cool.
So now we have single beads. Single beads also come in all shapes and forms and things. These are all agate beads. These come from the Swat Valley in northern Pakistan, which is just below Tibet.
Okay.
These date back to Alexander the Great and prior, before him.
Wow.
So these all have a history of
and these are all smaller,
very
half-inch
wearable.
long
Yeah.
wearable beads,
Very
in
wearable.
all different colors. I can't even
and
begin
they're
to
all
describe the
natural agates.
colors.
They're all natural agates,
That's cool.
Okay.
just like these guys here. They're all natural agate beads.
And now, do the holes go through lengthwise? They do go
both
through
directions.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, each bead has its own little quirkiness. So
And they drilled those
using
with
flint napped drill bits.
I can't even comprehend this
I know, it's cool.
because the bead hole is so small. I mean, you're talking what, a 10,000th inch hole going through a bead that's 3/4 of an inch
It's
long,
mind-boggling, yes.
Yeah, it is.
and
Yeah.
you're doing that with another stone.
But let me tell you something. Okay, in northern India, in Pakistan, places like that, they discovered corundum, which is ruby and sapphire, which is a hardness of 9. They also discovered diamond, which is a hardness of 10. They figured out if you crush it into a powder and you use little copper rods,
Okay.
you can do this with the copper rods and using that powder as the abrasive
Between your hands and rubbing your hands back
and
and
drill
forth.
really fast through a piece of agate.
But still, the accuracy of going through this bead that's only a
Well,
quarter of an inch wide.
I gave you a very simplified version of it. They made drill bits called bow, and they
Right,
had a thing called
bow.
a bow drill.
Right.
And they could actually get really technical with these things.
Really?
Diamond
But
drilling,
how did they hold it? I mean-
Diamond drilling was invented in the Harappan culture, the Indus Valley region, about 3,000 years ago, maybe 4,000 years ago.
Okay.
There's a science guy that I like. He's a great guy, Dr. Jonathan Mark Canoyer, who's written maybe 6 to 10 books on the subject and researched it and stuff like that. He takes these beads here and he will analyze the bead, how it was drilled, by putting the dental impression stuff inside, letting it harden, popping it out, and then running it through his electron microscope. And he'll tell you how these beads were drilled.
Wow. But what did they use to hold them? I mean, the vise wasn't.
No, a little pin vise. Yeah, just 2 pieces of wood can make a vise.
I guess. But
little
it seems
sinew
like
and
when you're
stuff.
trying to do the drill
Trust
part
me,
of
if
it.
we knew everything about it, we'd be blown away. The Indus Valley region had some of the most incredible discoveries. We don't give them enough credit. You know, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, that whole region there had mines that were beyond anything at the time. Anything.
And you want to know the thing that gets me is they say we're the most technologically advanced, and we can't even remember how to make things that they were making 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It just
try
blows
figuring
my
out
mind.
what they did 3,000 years ago. It boggles the mind. I'm
Totally.
gonna go behind this case here. Let me show you this. This right here is probably the largest collection of prehistoric Saharan artifacts outside of a major museum that specializes in it. Okay, I've been doing this for many, many, many years. So some of these date back in my collection over 40 years ago.
And are these all wood or are they steel? They look
Stone,
like steel.
Stone.
Okay, they look kind of like cast iron.
Exactly. Well, they have patina on them. They have age to them. They have desert varnish to them. This has been sandblasted by laying out in the desert now for.
Can I touch?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's stone.
Don't drop it.
Don't drop it, the glass will shatter.
And if you look at it, it's like a piece of modern art.
Yeah, it
phenomenal.
looks kind of like a cow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's bovine. It's could be a bull or a cow, but it's a classic design. It's timeless. You know what it is. He made it.
Exactly.
Okay, there were two cultures. Well, let me skip back to the Sahara Desert. Number one, it's my favorite area in the world for artifacts.
Okay.
Sahara Desert had two wet periods. 12,000 BC, so 14,000 years ago, and 6,000 BC, which is 8,000 years ago.
Okay.
These wet periods were major in the fact that they're still finding whale skeletons 2,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. So there must have been waterways that were connected to the ocean, because these people did not drag whales 2,000 miles inland. These whales swam there, okay? Or floated.
Okay, so my mind's being blown again.
Okay, this is why you're here.
This is exactly why I'm
where
here.
I am to go. Where am I to go? You came to the right place for mind blowing. So, the Sahara Desert had the Teneran and the Kifian cultures, which were the two wet periods. There were people there, lots of people, and again, because of the art, we can tell that they had a lot of free time. So they must have had easy access to food and water, and they were smart enough to build beautiful shelters.
Right.
Because there were lions and tigers. Well, no tigers, that's Indian continent. Let me open this book once for you. I want to show you something in the book, and I'll keep talking as I'm showing it. This book was done by a friend of mine named Klenkler in Germany, and the shipping on it is incredible, but he spent years researching this stuff, and to show you that these are in the middle of the desert, and that's not just one. There's like hundreds of these megaliths and monoliths,
Right.
and what we would call like a Stonehenge type of a
Right.
structure with rocks and
Kind of labyrinths and
labyrinths, exactly.
made out of stone.
Look at this. You see it from satellites. Okay?
Wow.
Some of them are so big you see them from satellites.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Just
The technological skill for these so-called Stone Age hunter-gatherers in the middle of the Sahara Desert is mind-boggling, because it's still there.
right.
14,000 years old. It's still there. Okay, this is pre-Stonehenge, and there's not just one or two. There's like there's
They look a
hundreds
lot
of
like the crop circles as far as
exactly,
designs. You
but
see
they're made
pictures
out of boulders.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but as far as the
rocks.
intricacy of the designs and that type of stuff, they're awesome.
That's an awesome photo.
Yeah, they're
And this is all over in the Sahara Desert.
it's the middle of the Sahara Desert, and like I say, the two cultures. So
And how long did those last? Those two cultures?
Maybe 2,000, 3,000 years each.
So they lasted a long time.
well, until the water receded and it became desertification again, or whatever you call it.
Right.
Yeah, it turned into desert again.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's definitely a very, very cool place. So,
Makes this ride that we're on right now seem pretty insignificant, doesn't it?
and see this type right here.
Beautiful stuff.
I do have the largest collection of that outside of a major museum.
And, and what we're looking at again is a stone bead that is shaped about the best way I can describe it is kind of
lawnmower
like
handle.
longhorn cow.
Yeah, longhorn cow or lawnmower handle.
Or lawnmower, yeah.
Pull
yeah.
rope.
Yep.
We still haven't figured
And-
out what these were done for, but they're made in all sizes. You can see
Yeah, you've got some that are 8-10 inches long.
tiny and over
They
12
look-
inches tall. Yeah,
They look
almost
like a
12.
longhorn bull horn with the attachment for the bead up on top, like where the skull would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granitic schist is what the material is. It's a type of stone.
Now, I know people are going to be listening to this that are going to be trying to look this stuff up.
They
I
can.
hope they have fun spelling the word granitic schist. Yeah, you're not going to spell it for me, are you?
Yeah, no.
It's time to start guessing.
Nose plugs and ear plugs and lip plugs.
Nose
made out of stone.
Wow.
So
This stuff's amazing.
you can see the technology was there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
And stuff that we can't even reproduce.
No, and this is why beads are so important, because they're a window into that time period. They show us how technologically advanced these people were at the time. And when you talk about Sahara Desert, typically you think of a bunch of bush apes running around wearing banana leaves, and a lion comes along, they all run up a tree. It wasn't so. No. These were advanced thinking, technologically sophisticated people, and they were there way before Europe and Russia and America or any of those places.
Well, the thing, you know, let's get a little bit off topic on topic. I say it all the time, I think that where we are now, people have been many times before.
Exactly.
And you look at this kind of stuff,
Without
you have no
electronics.
Well, they may have had the electronics. How in the world were they able to see these designs that you're showing me that look like crop circles? How were they able to see that in order to map that out? Or did they just
go into UFOs too?
Exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of places you can go, but there had to be a way to see that from the air in order to plan that out, because just walking around in the desert, picking up stones and laying it out for 20 miles.
Chile and this stuff here,
it doesn't work.
These things don't work for the street walking human.
And we're looking at some of this stuff that you're showing me here that's just basic beadwork that they can't reproduce.
Right.
And so, because that technology is lost, were they used for religious purposes? Were they used for technological purposes?
Of course.
I mean, they may have had technologies that were run on crystals that this beadwork fits into. You know, I mean, you can speculate all day long outside of the history books that tell us that they're barefooted savages running around from climbing trees when the lions were chasing them.
I'll defend their honor and tell people they were not barefooted savages.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff that I'm seeing is just boggling my mind.
Because I hold it in my hand every single day, and I'm just blown away by how important it is not to forget this, and how important it is to salvage what they're digging up and finding. Because most of this stuff gets dug up by some guy in Mali that needs money to buy a knife or something, or a dog or a horse or something, and he's digging it up and he's giving it to a trader who then. That trader takes it to Spain or to Switzerland, and it goes to a collector, and that collector then sends it to me to identify or something. Yeah, it's mind-boggling even still how we're finding these things, you know?
Yeah, I had no clue.
Yeah. So, for instance, here we have jasper agate, we have a feldspar. We have another feldspar called amazonite, and then we have a super rare stone called scorzolite. And these are all beads from that time period. And right here you have a wall of amazonite.
Wow.
Okay.
And these are kind of a pale blue-green, turquoise-looking stone.
But not just pale.
There are some that are brighter.
Yeah, it comes in all color ranges. If you go around the corner, you can see.
Oh, yeah.
You know, these are related to them. These are related to them. And then
you've got the whole color spectrum going on.
Exactly.
Here.
So if you come over to my main museum case over here, this is like the best of the best I put together. And you can see I've gone through literally thousands of these to put one together.
Right.
Okay. This right here is the...
now, did you put them together from individual beads that you bought, or did you...
I would buy these by strands, just haphazard strands. I'd take them apart, and then I would grade them myself, and then reassemble them into something that makes sense. But I've been doing this for so many years that I literally had buckets of this stuff as I was doing it. I didn't get one strand and take it apart and make two strands out of it. This is that scorzolite, super duper rare material.
Now that's a really pretty stone. That's more of a navy blue,
like a lapis color.
Yeah. with white and other colors intermixed in between.
Super duper rare. These are all stones from that Sahara Desert area right here. Every different shape and size and color.
Those are cool.
Very cool stones. These come out of the Sahara right there.
Wow.
And again, now we're having a flashback to Tibet. So this is that Pimaraka in Tibet. These are some of those, we call them etched, but they're just surface decorated. These are Pumtecs. These are out of Burma. This is out of Burma. If you look at the detail, and these go back 2,000 to 3,000 years. The Pew culture, or turquoise culture.
Okay.
We don't know what the exact. And these are agate fish.
They are.
Agate
There's
fish.
little fish in there. See that fish?
Oh yeah.
And just all types of little.
There's
designs.
another little fish there. With different types of stones, they made the
All
fish.
different types, yeah. Mostly agates and just very cool beads.
We've got whites, grays, greens, oranges.
That's a pretty one.
Oh man, and the stones are just so cool.
To give you an idea, a resale value of this necklace is about $35,000.
I was gonna say
Take a picture of that one, Linda.
No, I want people to come see that
Just to give you an idea, you will not find this. This stuff here, this is Sahara Desert.
And those look like little puka shells.
But they're made out of a dark agate.
Dark agate.
And,
But they're
go
about the
back at
size
least
of the
10
old puka shell necklaces that
and
everybody
they go back
remembers.
at least 10,000 years.
Wow.
That.
So this
So
gold
are
is Ghana gold.
These are
Agate.
made this way though, right?
They made them like that, yeah.
Ground them down and
Oh yeah, every
Sanded on
every
them.
bead on here was shaped by hand and drilled by hand
Just amazing.
at least 10,000 years ago. So
Isn't that
so
something?
some incredible stuff there.
You guys have to come see it.
These are the pink versions. This is beautiful to
The amber.
amber. This is from the Baltic.
See how good I'm getting? I can
Yeah.
identify. That one's amber. And these ones are glass, right?
Those are glass. Those are the Chevron beads that we were talking about
Right.
here. It's a green version,
that
so
big
it's a little bit rarer.
Oh.
This is a Chevron bead made by the number one glass bead chevron maker in the world. His name's Art Seymour. He's in Utah. Every bead collector knows who Art Seymour is. That's one of the biggest he ever made.
Okay, this one's probably 5 to 6 inches tall. It's
Weighs a
probably
few pounds.
It's probably
You do not wear it.
a 4-inch in diameter, kind of in a triangle shape, and it has a hole in the center that's probably 1/2 inch round. You could probably put a 1/2 inch dowel in there.
Yeah.
And then it's the layered glass again. That's you were saying 7 layers was
7 layers, yeah.
and you can see all the layers looking down through it. It is just beautiful.
That's a pretty one there too.
All of them are.
Yeah, this holds the cream of the crop of most of my bead collection.
Okay.
This one case here. These are natural agates that were then shaped 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, maybe 1,000 years ago on some of them.
And what did they use to polish? Okay, I know that we have rock tumblers now that polish all this stuff.
They used grit from something a little bit harder. And like I say, this is Indus Valley stuff. So the grit they had was probably corundum, sapphire ruby, or diamond, or even garnet, which would all be.
Right.
And what they do is a diamond you can smash and turn it into powder, but a diamond will scratch anything because it's so hard.
Right.
But it's brittle. Diamonds are brittle. So you can scratch the heck out of it. Jade, on the other hand, you can't smash the heck out of it. It's resilient to that kind
It's
of
not
damage,
brittle.
but it's not as hard. So they both have different, so if they're using jade for one thing, jade they probably use as a single element stone, and diamond they probably crushed into powder.
And then they would just rub these things over
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah, just
and they would
make
shape
it
them.
wet
They would
and-
they would shape them through flint napping, or
They would shape them. We found these stones. I don't know where I've got them somewhere. They found these stones where they would just take these and just rub them like this on the
Oh,
stone,
okay.
and then you could see the grooves in the stone where they were grinding
Okay.
these beads.
and then they would polish up. I mean, they're super
Highly
polished.
polished, yeah.
So they must have had different grit stones that they used also.
Diamond, yeah. And what they do is they have a higher grit for faster, and then a real powdery, almost like a paste for
Right.
the super high polish.
Wow.
Yeah. So they drilled and polished with diamond in these ancient cultures because they figured it out.
And
way
they're
before the
assuming
West did.
by hand
by hand, yeah.
that they
no
did all
machines
that.
at that time, unless that's
that we're aware of.
yeah, unless that's something that yeah, it just doesn't. It for me, I've never seen it. This is a beautiful strand of coral.
And again, highly
Oh
polished.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Now
Wow.
these probably go back to early 1900s. Okay, and this gold is more of a modern gold on here. These are beads that covered a spectrum of color. They don't have reds or oranges in there.
Right.
But this is all Arizona material right here. This blue.
Okay.
This is copper impregnated quartz. The gemological term for it is Gem Silica chrysocolla.
Okay. Look that one up.
Yeah, GSC, capital G, capital S, capital C, in right Arizona. You'll get some gorgeous pictures of it. These are holly blue agates right here. This is Oregon. This is sugilite out of Africa.
Wow.
These are ambers here. This is chrysoprase out of Australia. So there's
a whole spectrum of
these
colors.
were cut either by myself or my friend Alan Curtis.
Okay.
So, but it's just a beautiful display of colors of natural. These are natural stones. They're not heat enhanced or color enhanced or dyed. This is naturally occurring.
Wow.
And this is why ancient people, if they found a stone in this color, they're going to pick it up and carry it. And they figured out I can carry a whole lot more if I put them on a string.
Oh yeah.
You know, so
And once they're polished up and all that, they're worth a whole lot more, I'm sure.
oh God, yeah, you've now invested time and labor and
Right.
technology into
Right.
it.
And it's pretty.
These are Czechoslovakian. I tried to get every color I possibly could have found, and these are called talcumets. These are glass, pressed glass.
And they're all kind of triangular shaped and
Hey, your rig is beyond. Oh, that
Yeah.
thing out there is mine.
Yeah, we'll talk to him. I'll take you next door to him.
okay.
This is a tribal necklace out of Nagaland,
Wow.
outside of India. This is a monkey skull.
I was going to say it's got a monkey skull on it.
It's the main focal bead on this thing, and then it's got
Little claws,
and these little human
Totems.
effigies and things like that. So
kind of Easter Island type
yeah,
heads.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. That one's really cool. Where'd you get that?
Well, it's I've been doing this for many years. So. I forgot where I got that one from.
That's cool.
And just to show you how beads are used, this was a slave girl's scapular from Mauritania. Mauritania was a culture we discussed earlier with the powder glass beads.
Right.
This would have been put over the girl's head, and she would have had it on both sides. And there's typically pages out of the Quran or something like that inside this. So this is a scapular. It shows who owned the slave, and this slave was a very important one because this is a very cool piece.
Yes. And what we're looking at here is something that would look like saddlebag maybe. It's got two very, very small. Yeah, the bags on it are 2 inches by 2 inches and maybe quarter to 3/8 of an inch thick, where he said that the pages of the Quran might be. It's got leather tassels coming down both sides and then stones coming up over, so that when she put it over her head, it would hang down on her chest and on her back. Basically like a set of saddlebags.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of wood.
In the Catholic faith, it's called a scapular. They would hang it like that.
Okay.
They've got the same thing.
I'm not familiar with that term,
Yeah,
so
so
I'm learning
if
things.
you look up scapular, you'll find what it looks like. It has powder glass beads. It has Amazonite beads. It has carved shell beads, and then powder glass again, and then agate. So
Wow.
it shows a little bit of all of the stuff that they like. So this was an important slave girl. That this came from. Super duper rare. You just don't find these anymore. I mean, now these are interesting because technically these aren't beads, but they have every single quality of a bead. Okay,
They look like beads.
exactly. They're Spindle Worlds. These are Peruvian Spindle Worlds. They're hand carved ceramic.
Okay.
And a spindle whirl is you have a long pointy little stick
Okay.
that you are gathering wool to it, and you're spinning it.
Oh, okay.
And these are the Flywheel Weights. Oh. And they come in all sizes. So these are really
Okay.
small flywheels, and these get bigger, and we've got monster size too.
Right.
But
like
they're-
for the drop spindles that they would spin
exactly,
wool with.
Exactly. So you spin it. This creates the centrifugal motion, or
Right.
because it's got weight to it, because the little wooden thing doesn't have it. So they're not considered beads. These are a utilitarian object that resembles a bead. It's made just like a bead, but it's used for something totally different. I put it on a necklace because
It looks beautiful.
I don't do spindle whirling. So
Right.
anyway,
Wow.
to give you an idea on that.
So many cool things. I had no idea. I thought I was coming to a bead museum. I had no idea I was going to be
you are, and you're going to
so
get an
blown
education.
away. So blown away.
And again, this is okay. Look at all the different forms of amber. This is Burmite. This is amber found in Burma.
Okay.
And they have one unique way of making them look like this.
It's kind of a root beer color.
Yeah, and right here's another one
Okay.
that has metal in between.
And they're tubes. They're not round beads. They're tubes.
Totally different shapes. Yes, and then these are typically these are Baltic amber. These were traded all over the world.
Okay.
So in fact, the Romans built a trade route to the Baltic amber area for the amber.
Oh, really?
And the Romans have carved amber statues and everything else. So it's been prized all through history. So this is an amber
And you've
wall.
got a whole wall of amber here.
Yeah, and so and these are ancient beads here, mostly glass, some stone probably. There's stone beads down here. This is Guatemalan jade, so from South America. Again, some of these are Spindle Worlds. If you come in here, I have something from every culture in every material.
Okay, one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any quill work from the Native Americans? They
the-
use that for bead.
Well, I
Not
have,
really bead, but
Right, no,
maybe
I know what it is. I have some examples. I don't know if I have anything that's really, really good beadwork from the quill.
Well, I'm just curious if that was considered a bead.
Before we end this is one of the female effigies that they find out there, and this one is well documented. They've found about 12 to 20 variations of this thing.
Okay.
It's made from fossilized dinosaur bone. It's the only place in the world where they find these pregnant female effigies that are kneeling and looking towards the sky with their breasts sticking upward.
Really?
So
And it's made out of
it's
dinosaur
a very,
bone.
very cool piece.
Yeah.
Fossilized dinosaur bone.
Well, I was going to say she had to be pregnant.
You can see the cell structure.
Right.
You know.
Oh, that is just awesome.
Yeah, and these have been documented in scientific papers, not in books yet. So I've got a small collection of them.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to come in here and see some of the coolest Sahara treasures, I mean,
You've got it.
I do have
Oh.
I do have them. Better than probably there's a museum in Switzerland called the Barbier Museum, and they probably are the only ones that have a nicer collection than me.
Wow.
I don't think there's another. We didn't cover any of the stuff on this wall here.
Oh, what's on this wall? More beads.
It's all beads, but these are all different varieties of stuff you find in the Sahara Desert again. And if you look, I mean,
I thought the Sahara Desert just had sand.
it did. It did. You have to look under the sand. Again,
man.
Sahara Desert, you know, just
Beautiful,
phenomenal stuff. These here aren't. This is rock crystal, but hand faceted. It's not
Okay.
machine made. Gorgeous. It looks like
Oh,
diamonds.
yeah. It does look like diamonds.
These is Australian chrysoprase done by a modern bead worker.
Tell me about this one here.
Same thing, Sahara Desert, and if you look,
Those are shells.
fossilized sea urchins.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't
that's
they?
neat.
Aren't they badass?
In the middle of the Saharan Desert.
middle of Sahara Desert.
Very badass.
I had never heard that it had flooded to the point where whales could travel inland to 2,000 miles.
These are Gobi
Oh, those are neat.
Gobi Desert agates. Really cool looking agates.
Yeah, they are.
This is a really weird way of drilling them, which is what they did in the Sahara too.
Which is just at the top, and then they planted them all in
Like
at
a
different
pendulum or
angles. Yeah.
something. Yeah. So, and in triangles, and I mean, literally every shape you can imagine. If you come in, I'll show you stuff that'll mind-boggle you.
Definitely.
go to your
I'll
left.
attest to that
Go to your
100%.
left.
You got seashells.
But look at them close. They're not just seashells, okay? Sorry about the tightness here. Every one of these is hand carved and engraved and shaped.
Yes, they are. Wow.
It's
Little
like-
holes drilled in them, and
It's like a puka shell on steroids with
Yeah, some of them look like skulls.
well, and some of them are really, really big.
those skulls are bone beads. Those are yeah. This is organic stuff up here. I'm not so into the organic. I'm more into the stone and glass.
Yeah, I like that.
Wow.
Fossilized mammoth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these are fossilized mammoth.
Like
ivory.
bone? Oh, from the ivory.
From the ivory, yeah.
Wow.
This is fossilized mammoth bone.
Okay.
Wow.
And where did those come from?
These are dog teeth.
Really?
Yeah, look at them.
Really,
Yeah, so
really cool.
when that little puppy of yours out there passes away,
Save the bones.
Most everything on this wall here is Venetian glass, with the exception of a few pieces of Czechoslovakian guys. They made really cool stuff. These are glass lion's teeth.
I was going to say, they look like teeth out of something.
Yeah, these are glass lion's teeth. They made all kinds of really cool shapes, but the Millefiori bead is probably the most identifiable bead in the bead trade, Millefioris, and that means 1,000 flowers or many flowers. Okay. And you can kind of see where it gets the name from.
Yeah, they've got beads that are 1 to 2 inches long, round beads, 1/2 inch round, with real cool painted designs on them.
But they're not painted.
They're not
That's
painted.
solid glass.
Oh, that's solid glass.
Yeah, it's made the same way that those Chevron beads are made, and then
Okay.
they make tiny little pieces and put them all together, and you go crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So most of those guys are crazy.
I would think. Cross-eyed and crazy.
Yeah. These look like amber.
I was gonna, yeah.
Okay, and they're called in some circles, they're called African amber. It's a phenolic resin that was invented by the Germans in 1920s.
Okay, what's phenolic?
It's a type of resin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a phenolic is probably like a denatured alcohol or something weird like that.
Okay.
And you mix it with a certain and then you bake it in an oven. Bakelite is a version of it.
Okay.
So this was then misinterpreted as amber in Africa for many, many years, and the Germans were cranking it out by the billions of pounds, and the Poles were digging for amber, and the Germans were just cranking it out. Okay, and today you can still run into major arguments with people that this is not amber. Yeah.
Takes a scholar in order to be able to figure it out? Or?
You handle a few and you're going to find out real fast. Plus, if you have a black light, amber's organic, it'll glow.
Okay.
And this is inorganic, it won't glow. It'll just reflect the black light.
Then it should be easy to solve the argument.
It is very easy. But we have a lot of stubborn people in the world. This is a Native American necklace from the 1920s with jocklas. These used to be earrings. They'd hang them over the ears.
Oh, okay.
But they ended up, they worked better on the bottom of a necklace than hanging from the ears because they'd fall off when they ran or whatever.
Right.
Lots of beads here. There's some. I can pull out some more beads that would like blow you away.
I think we've probably sufficed for the podcast.
Come here for a second.
I may stick around here for a little bit more for my own edification and fascination, because this is totally fascinating.
More Spindle Worlds. These are your old ceramic European ones. I've got them out of lead. These are stone. These are bone. These are Harappan culture. No, Bactrian culture goes way back.
Oh, he's got a cabinet here that's probably 4 foot wide and 5 foot tall.
It's a print
that has.
cabinet, yeah.
It's the old print.
Yes.
Okay, where they put all their tin types.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's got these things full of different stones and.
This is one of the rarest beads in the world. It's called Man in the Moon Bead.
Okay, tell me about that, because I was looking at that.
Okay, I'm actually the person that's got the scientific paper on where they were made.
Okay.
Okay, we discovered it through the nuclear physics lab at Arizona State University.
Okay.
They did one of those XRFs where they bombarded the bead with an electron. It created a miniature nuclear explosion, and then they analyzed the elements that were in it.
Okay.
There is this bead here was the identifier. This was found by a girl in Turkey on the beach, and she traded it with me for firewood, a year's supply of firewood. I gave her a lot of money for it. And this bead here was identified as the first bead ever known made with Proteribus glass. Proteribus is a naturally occurring solid black glass. You cannot make black glass. And this is a volcanic glass that's super black. So it's the only known black glass in the world.
Like obsidian or?
Similar to obsidian, but not obsidian.
Okay.
Okay, it's Preteribus.
Right.
And this identified with, there's a 30-meter stretch of this Preteribus glass in the world. It's in a place called Fischlgebirge in Bavaria. And they found the actual glass huts where they were making beads and buttons. And we identified exactly where it came from and when it came from there by using the nuclear lab and testing this bead, and this bead right here.
Now, what makes the man in the moon?
It's
I mean,
like
we've
an
got
enamel.
a
It's
man
like
in the
a-
moon
it's like
with
a
two
s-
stars
yeah, it's like
on
a
the face of it.
Surface decorated through like a glass enamel. Yeah.
Wow.
And the cheapest one I ever found online in an auction was $4,500, and it was like completely obliterated. These were sold to the French, who brought them to North America, who traded them in all the French fort sites in North America, like
Canada and
Michigan, Upper
Right.
Michigan, the Great Lakes regions and stuff. There were a lot of French forts. All the French contact sites sometimes had one of these beads in it. These are mostly
Really?
in museum and
Wow.
private collections. And there's one in Rochester, New York, a collection where they found a little pot that had, I believe, 6 or 8 or something like that in it.
Really?
They were almost in perfect condition.
Wow.
This is probably the finest known example, and this is the second fine. This is the best example, second best and third best example
wow.
in the world. I would not sell this for. I think I have an NFS. I got 10,000 on it, but I'd be hard pressed to sell it for 10,000.
They'd have to want it more than you.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then these are.
And they have a perfect man in the moon with a star sitting
Yeah.
off the side.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
really neat.
And
that is so
on the
cool.
back is a comet surrounded by stars.
Really?
Yeah. And the little black one has the 4 phases of the moon.
Oh, really?
With stars in between it. So
Wow.
I've got a lot of bead books. I have a very extensive library down below in my basement. I have probably 2,000 books and maybe 500 books on beads.
Okay.
I've
And I
got an
doubt if you
extensive-
need to go to many books. If you've got a bead that you want to have identified, this man's got it all in his head.
Well, that's just it.
I'm amazed at the names, places, and times that he's just pulling out of thin air.
Now, some of this is
I mean,
Native
granted,
American.
you've been going at it for a long time, but
This is all Native American work right here.
okay.
Okay, I don't see any quills. I don't see any quill work there.
That's okay. I was wondering if that was considered a bead.
Oh yeah, anything that has a perforation that you can wear could be considered a bead. That's a nice thing about a bead.
Right.
You can make a bead today. You can make people make paper beads.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could show you literally thousands of strands, and we wouldn't be finished in a day. I mean, you literally have to come back here 2 or 3 times to see everything.
Well, let's go ahead and wind this down.
Okay.
And I think I'll look around. The knowledge here and the intrigue has been just absolutely amazing.
Beautiful. I'm glad to
I am
hear it.
so glad you took the time today, Thomas. Now, do you have a website with your store? What's the website?
It's www.tasart.com.
Okay. And you sell online also, or
No, but they can contact me and I can sell, directly online. I don't have a store set. I've got a few things for sale on there, but it's haphazard. It's a pretty informative site, but it's not set up to do retail.
okay.
Okay, so I prefer talking to people because every bead is individual pretty much. And the people that are going to be into some of the stuff that I have, I want them to touch it.
Oh,
because if they're
the
gonna
touching
spend-
has been fun.
Yeah, if they're going to spend $100,000 to $40,000 on a bead, it's not something that you buy out of a catalog. It's something you want to know the history of it. You want to see it, touch it, feel it, photograph it. It's that kind of an entity. It just doesn't work like real good in the resale setting.
And then do you have inexpensive beads here too, or
$3 a strand.
really? Okay. So you cover the whole gamut from super collector down
I
to
have 2,000-year-old beads right here, glass beads that were made in the Roman period, and 15, 20 bucks a strand.
really.
Yeah.
Huh. All over the place. This is just so cool. Now, are you on Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that also?
I do Facebook. 90% of my stuff is on Facebook. I have an Instagram account, but I
And what do you call it on Facebook?
Thomas Stricker is my name, Stricker. I also have Bead Collectors Helping Bead Collectors.
Okay, so if somebody's interested in beads, they can.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have probably the world's top authorities and the world's top bead collectors there.
Cool.
For instance, we have one of my favorite guys that posts. His name is Billy Steinberg. Billy Steinberg is a songwriter.
Okay.
He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He wrote Like a Virgin for Madonna. He wrote True Colors for Cyndi Lauper, for Phil Collins and Kodak, and I'll Stand By You, the vinyls, and
Really?
songs for Roy Orbison, The Pretenders. I mean, but he's a bead collector.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a very famous guy that's a bead collector. We have lots and lots of really cool bead people on that.
Okay.
Bead collectors helping bead collectors.
Okay. So if you're a bead collector, and I might
It
start
behooves
being
you.
one.
It behooves you. Yeah.
I've just this is a whole new world to me, and I'm so amazed. Anyway, I finish out my podcast by saying the world is full of wonder. People need to get out and explore. And this whole bead thing would make exploration of the whole world I'm amazed at what you've come up with here.
Beautiful, thank you.
So, the world is full of wonder. And sometimes it's fun to see it from somebody else's perspective. Everybody needs to get out, see things, enjoy it, and have an absolutely wonder-filled day.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?